I am going to record this and post it so that anyone who isn't able to attend, can watch it. So, so we're going to talk tonight about getting back on track. So the normal disclaimer that says if you apply anything that you hear tonight and there's a problem, it's your fault. So just to keep us happy with the lawyers. So what I'm going to cover tonight is, a lot of us haven't driven for a while. That implies some risks. How can we avoid those? And then more to the point, how do we safely get back on track? And we're going to cover that in some basics, and then in driver, car, and traffic. And I just want to remind everyone, you have a chat function. If you want to make a comment or ask a question as we're going, you can type it into the chat if you prefer, or you can unmute yourself and do it that way. And there'll be Q&A at the end, but you can also type it in that way. You should be seeing the slide on your screen at this point, and with the agenda. So how long since you last drove? In my case, it was VIR last year. In some people's cases, it was October at Lightning, maybe even longer than that, a lot of months. And hopefully your skills are more up to date than this poor guy in the photo. But the point is, it's been a long time since many of us drove on the track. And so how might people get ready to get on the track? Well, you can look at lap times, you can think about how you drove the last time, you can make sure the car has gas and tires. In other words, you can kind of throw darts at it. But if we don't approach it in a more methodical way, we end up making some of the most common mistakes. Not that anyone here has ever made any of these mistakes, but trying to drive too fast early on, ending up early, braking too late, not anticipating traffic. I'm going to spend some time on situational awareness and track awareness, because obviously that's one of the things that goes away. But there are a lot of mistakes that can be made at the track, and in addition, the risks mean we've lost kind of our normal reference points. We've lost that so-called muscle memory, the sense of flow or rhythm that we all feel when we've just driven a great lap, and certainly track awareness. And hopefully, if you have a problem on track, you're as lucky as this guy who had a code brown moment, but managed to keep his car in one piece. But the mistakes on track, I don't have to remind people too much, do have consequences. I don't know what caused this guy to spin, but I'm guessing too much gas too soon. But this didn't end nearly so well. Fortunately, he had a tire wall, but it's just a reminder that the stuff we do does have consequences. So let's talk about how we get back on track and do it safely. So to start this, let's do a quick poll. I am going to launch this poll. So you should all see the poll in front of you that says, what have you done to keep your driving sharp? And I'll give you a second to click or touch the ones that apply to you that you've been doing. Obviously, there are probably other things we can do, but watching videos and reading books and articles, simulators, visualization, track maps, track notes. Those are all legitimate ways to get ready.
Bill, it's letting you choose one option.
No, you can choose as many as you want, Jim.
No, it's not. I'm clicking and it's changing the bullet.
It will not let us choose more than one because I've done all 5.
Oh, well, that's weird. Okay, well, my mistake then. I set it up wrong because when I did this on Sunday, it worked fine. Well, then based on what the one choice, then here's what people said. So I had intended that to be a multiple, so you could select as many as you wanted. So, but the point is that there's lots of things we can do to to stay sharp, and looks like many of you have been doing, applying some or all of these, and we'll talk some about a lot of these. But let's start with some reviewing the basics. First of all, let's assume your car is good to go. And I put a question mark because, and sometimes we all take that for granted, but, I'm not going to spend any time tonight about the car, but, other than to say you need to kind of set that and forget it so that, you don't have to spend time worrying about the car. We've already talked about the different procedures that COVID implies for us. I'm going to, getting comfortable in the car again, including getting seated. And I'm going to spend a minute on mirrors because this is an area where we've discovered a lot of people are not taking advantage of what your mirrors can offer you on the track. So I'm going to talk specifically about how to adjust your mirrors. And for those of you that have done this, great. If you haven't done this, pay a special attention. So your rear view mirror should be set probably the way you have it now. So you can see the entire rear view mirror, or rear window, I'm sorry. And if you have a choice, make sure you can see the top of it so that you can see as far behind you as possible. You want to have as broad a view as possible, but most of you probably have that covered. What you may not have covered is adjusting the mirrors so that there's no blind spot. So the way we do that with the driver's mirror, outside mirror, lean your head against the driver's window and push the driver's side mirror all the way out until you can just barely see the back corner of the car. And then when you sit back up in your normal position, you will see nothing in that mirror. But there's a reason for that. And then the right side, it's the same process. Lean your head to the right underneath the rearview mirror, push that right mirror all the way out until you can just barely see the right rear fender of the car. When you do that properly, and I've done this with many, many people in many, many cars, you will have, instead of the normal blind spot that most people have when they adjust the mirrors in a typical fashion, you will have this view, meaning no blind spot. So adjusted properly, if you're driving down the highway, and I strongly suggest you do this on all of your street vehicles as well as your track car, when you're driving down 287 or 80 in the middle lane, if a car comes up on your left, you'll see them way back in your rearview mirror. And then as they get closer, you'll see them in your left mirror. And in fact, they will be in your driver's side mirror until they're beside your shoulder. So you will see them in the mirror until you don't even have to turn your head to see them. Sounds too good to be true for those who haven't tried it, but it actually works. And something that, again, everyone should be doing. and obviously has big dividends on the track, because mirrors are a big part of situational awareness. We need to be aware of the cars behind us. We don't want to be surprised ever. The way we avoid being surprised is to scan those mirrors, especially the rearview mirror. But when there's cars close, having the blind spot eliminated is a huge plus. Think about going into the bus stop and a car passed you near the end of the back straight, but you don't see them. If your mirrors aren't adjusted properly, where are they? I had that happen to me once before I had the mirrors adjusted properly. And I ended up going straight through the bus stop to avoid, because I didn't know where the car was. So this is a way to avoid that if you adjust the mirrors. Now, the other point I want to make here in terms of scanning the mirrors is, where do we want to look in that rearview mirror? Well, obviously we look at it presumably exiting a corner. If there's a car close behind, we may want to give a pass signal. But not everyone looks in that rearview mirror in the braking zone, or at the beginning of a braking zone, or the end of a braking zone, because that's where you get the best picture of who's behind you. If there's cars some distance behind, if you get in the habit of doing that, especially at a track like Watkins Glen that has a lot of relatively fast corners followed by straights, are the cars getting closer, or are they getting further away? If you're only looking in the mirror at the beginning of the straightaway, or halfway down, you don't necessarily have that perspective. So you really need to get in the habit of looking at the rearview mirror, not only on the straightaway, but at the end of the straightaway. Flags, again, basic stuff, just reminders. No excuse for missing any flag, but every event we have drivers miss flags, right? Even though they're right in front of us. Why does that happen? Well, if it's an inexperienced driver, they may not be scanning enough. They may not have a complete enough mental picture. But if you're an experienced driver, and everyone on this call is, why would you miss a flag? Well, there's lots of reasons. I called it tunnel vision here. Lou Huddyman called it red mist. But if you're chasing a lap time or a car, or just caught up in the traffic, you don't look at the flag stations. Some experienced drivers don't have a complete enough mental picture, meaning, what should that flag station look like every time I come around? If it looks different, I need to do something different. And we can get in a rut. So when do we want to look at flag stations? Again, this is basic stuff, but stuff a lot of people don't do nearly well enough. So we want to look at flag stations as soon as humanly possible, right? So here's a really easy example. The flag station at turn 1 at Watkins Glen. At the end of the brake zone where this video is, easy to see that flagger, right? I mean, he's right in front of us, he or she, and we're only 100 feet or whatever it is, from the flagger. But before the brake zone, that flagger is in our line of sight. We can easily see that flagger, and we should see that flagger there. But how about right after start finish? We can still see the flagger. He or she is still in our line of sight. In this case, it's easy. They're straight dead ahead of us. How about even sooner? How about before start finish? Sure enough, if we're paying attention, we can, especially if our mental picture normally has that flagger sort of, not doing anything, right? No flag. If that flagger is all of a sudden holding certainly a yellow flag, we damn well better see it from this point. But if they're holding a black flag, it should still show up, because it's going to look different than the last time we went by. And that's the mental image, mental picture that if you don't have that mental picture for every flag station, then that's something to work on. And I'm going to give you a way to work on it in a few minutes. Now, this is flag station 1. Interest of time, I didn't do others. Flag station 2 is quite a bit harder because it's around turn 1. But in that case, we have to make a conscious effort to glance to the right to see that station. But we have to get in the habit as soon as we possibly can, tracking out of 1, to glance to the right. And if something's going on, to be aware of it. All right, so those are some basics about getting back on track. So let's talk about some, let's call it, refinements or advancements to that. So I love the David Murray quote. There's a huge difference between knowing what you need to do and being able to execute it. I dare say everybody on this call knows what you need to do when you get back on the track. Being able to execute it, that's a whole nother matter, especially when we're rusty. So how if we've been off for a while, do we get back in the swing of things? And here I've adapted information from Ross Bentley that I think makes a lot of sense. So, relearn the track, relearn the car, relearn the traffic, and don't forget to have fun along the way. And I'm going to give you a structured way to do that in a minute. But let's start with the track. Think about it like learning a new track. Before the event, this is kind of what we talked about in the poll. There's lots of things we can do. But mental programming or visualization, mental imagery is what Ross Bentley calls it, just visualizing what's going on with the track, remembering the elevation changes, remembering the turn numbers, remembering the flag stations, remembering all the reference points, et cetera, et cetera. If we sit and do that before the event, that's a big plus. Now, the photo I have here is Ayrton Senna. He's sitting in the car, but he has a whole host of people around him. I don't know whether you can see it or not, but his eyes are focused straight ahead. He's thinking about what he's going to do next. And he's in the car, but you can do this sitting in your favorite chair. You can do this sitting in your car in the garage, wherever you want to do it. But playing the track through in your head is a huge plus, and you can do this obviously beforehand. There's also turn-by-turn information on the website. Video can help. Hopefully you have track notes. Those of you that are fortunate enough to have access to a simulator, all good stuff, right? So this is what can be done ahead of time, and to the extent you can, you should do as much of this as you can. Same thing about the car. If you think about driving, if you're like me, with all the COVID restrictions, I haven't done that much driving, period, lately. For a long time, I didn't have to drive to work. I didn't have to drive anywhere. So even my street driving skills are rusty, and I certainly haven't driven my track car. So I suspect I'm not the only one in that boat. So before the event, think about the car as being new to you. You haven't driven it before. If you can drive it, how does the steering feel? How do the brakes feel? Check the seat. Does it fit perfectly? Check your vision constraints with that helmet and Hans. If you haven't had it on for a while, that's going to take some adapting. Adjust the mirrors like we talked about. You can visualize driving the car. And as I said before, get the car set up and forget it so you can focus on driving and not be worried about making adjustments or changes to the car. Traffic, same thing. We haven't driven much, but if you've driven on the Parkway or 287 or 80 or wherever you drive, think about how many cars passed you, how many cars did you pass, what were the closing speeds? And even though there's been some crazy stories and speeds of people driving lately, especially while the roads were really empty, it still doesn't compare to being on the back straight of Watkins Glen, right? The closing speeds, even if we're used to the traffic, are very different. So before the event, again, visualize what closing traffic looks like in the mirror, what it looks like in front of you. If you were ever surprised by a car showing up in your mirror that you didn't know was there, think about that. We'll run expanded passing in red and black. Obviously, that requires courtesy. We don't tolerate aggressive driving in any group. And that means what that translates to is, if there's a car behind, we expect that you're going to give that car a pass signal. End of discussion. And there's no excuse if a car is behind you more than one corner for not giving a signal, even if that means you have to lift for a minute. And I know that a lot of people have fast cars, but the chiefs will have little tolerance for that. And perhaps the most important thing about traffic and so on, make sure your ego and expectations are calibrated, going in. So at the track, and here now is, if you have to take away, just one or two slides from tonight, this one and the one that follows are the ones I want you to focus on. Because when you get to the track, when you get there, Friday and you're thinking about going out, forget about going fast, forget about lap times. I'd like to suggest that you focus on what's called deliberate practice and use what Ross Bentley calls sensory input sessions. That's simply a fancy term for a way to focus on one or two things in a given session. And I'll give you ways to do that in a second. If you apply this approach, this is a proven way, to get yourself back in the swing of things, to recreate that muscle memory, that flow. It's going to get you up the learning curve a lot faster and a lot safer than sort of going out and driving or whatever other approach you might be thinking about. So here's what deliberate practice means. It's kind of in this box at the bottom. You go out to drive. Well, and let me back up. The key thing here is, and there's a lot of science behind this, that says the way you drive or practice in the scientific term, the way you drive and go out and approach it is a lot more important than the amount you drive. We always talk about seat time. Well, this is sort of a variation on that says, yeah, seat time helps, but seat time applied properly helps a whole lot more. So that means doing it in a focused way, clear goals, a plan for reaching those goals, and monitoring the progress. So for example, in relearning the track, we need to learn, or relearn, I guess, reference points, the track surface, the safety features like runoffs and so on. So how do we do that? Well, let me get, I'm going to come back to this slide in a second. On the website, for those of you that look for these slides, you will see there's a link to these worksheets. And there's a dozen of these sheets there. And each one talks about a topic. And in the case of the example here, and I know it's hard to see, it's small, this one's on reference points. And so here's a sheet that I strongly encourage you to print out and bring with you. And I encourage you to do that with all 12 of them. And take a session and focus on reference points. And there's some notes here, not cones, look for cracks, posts, seams, curves, etc. And, look for beginning of braking, turn in, end of braking, apex, track out, and anything in between that's useful to you. And when you come in from your session, take this piece of paper and write notes on it. And the way this works is you want to write those notes in the first 10 minutes that you come in. Write down as much as you can remember about what you saw, heard, and felt. You can even rate yourself in terms of how well did I capture the reference points. But the key thing is as many details, turn at the tire market, turn one, that kind of stuff. Do this before you do anything else, other than maybe take a drink of water. And I put a photo here of Ayrton Senna sitting in the car between sessions, writing notes on a track map. Okay, so this is not a new thought, but if you were to hire Ross Bentley or any one of a number of other pro coaches, they would have you do much the same sort of thing. So let me go back here now for just a second. So I showed you relearn the track, reference points, track surface, safety features. Relearning the car, brakes, brake release. Everybody knows how important that is. Throttle and steering. Relearn the traffic, using the mirrors. What would I do if something happened? In other words, where would I go off? How would I recover, and so on. And then Ross Bentley recommends everybody just do sessions where you focus on vision. Find something new to look at every lap. Hearing, same thing. Kinesthetics, what's the seat of the pants telling me? So if you add them up, there are 12 of these topics here, which is why there are 12 of these deliberate practice worksheets. And, if you've been thinking about an area that you want to focus on that's either a strength or a weakness, take these, one or more of these sheets in advance and write your own notes on it in advance, and then go out and do a session and come back in and update your notes. You can also use it in advance of the event because, it's a great way to kind of refresh yourself. So, okay, hold on. So again, capture that learning in the first 10 minutes. After that, you can relax, grab food or whatever. If you have time, look at data or video, but really write this stuff down first. So again, this is not something I just invented. This is sort of the well-developed, if you will, process that the pros use to improve their own driving. So you have 15 sessions over 3 days. You can certainly use most or all of those for this kind of deliberate practice. You've got the worksheets on the website. I strongly encourage you to use them. So before I get to Q&A, I have one kind of bonus thing. Earlier I talked about mistakes, and I didn't want to kind of leave that out there without replying to it. You really want to focus on the positive. Focus on, it's just like when we're on track, we want the eyes looking where we want to go. Same thing here. We want to focus on what the right thing to do is, not the wrong thing. So if you want to know what the right things to do are, and you want some sort of, if you will, advanced ideas or suggestions, this article is one that was in Porsche Force earlier this year that the chiefs collaborated on to put together. It's 10 secrets to going faster. And I'm not going to go through any of these here, but that article is also on the website, and I encourage you to read it if any of it applies. And by the way, if you go to the DE page on the website and go to the classroom section, you will find everything I've referred to tonight. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. and let folks chime in. Either you should be able to unmute your microphone and jump in. I went too fast, so nobody has questions, I know.
Bill, I just want to say that was a nice presentation, well thought out. Got a lot out of it. Thank you.
And Bill, I would say it's a great presentation too, and I'm on the website and checking out some of the things you said and the downloading, and it's there. It's pretty thorough.
Great, great. Yeah, one thing I should have mentioned, the slides that are on the website are in a slightly different sequence because I modified it slightly the other night, but it's the same content. So, thank you for the nice words. Yeah, we did put quite a bit of effort into getting this together, knowing that there's going to be a lot of us coming to the track who haven't driven some time, and we all want to have a good time. We all want to be safe, and everybody wants to go fast, but going fast is the last thing we want to focus on, right? But good. Other questions or comments?
Yeah, Bill, Randy here from Indianapolis. I'm going to be missing. The only thing I had to comment on was you were mentioning, be very aware of your mirrors, check them in your braking zone, make sure you've got good traffic awareness as you're going through the corner. We've always coached our newbies to not do that. Pay attention to the corner that you're approaching because it's not a passing zone anyway. So keep your eyes focused on where you're going in the corner, where you want the line to be going in, where you want to apex, breathing off the brakes as you do, feeling the transition in your butt, gently squeezing the gas pedal as you're exiting. Then check your mirrors after you have completed the corner, so that we don't have any, little exit issues biting you in the butt and being a problem. But do check your mirrors. You're right. Check your mirrors as soon as you're done completing the corner. Don't wait until you're halfway down the passing zone.
Yeah, well, Randy, let me respond to that. Two things. First, as for a newbie, correct. Because a newbie on the track tends to be overloaded. So, we don't want them looking in their mirrors while they're focused on the corner. But we are here. There's nobody coming to this event who's a newbie. This is a solo event. Everybody here has experience. And experienced drivers need to look in their mirrors, in the braking zone and know what's going on behind them. And the point that goes with that is, it was on the slide, but perhaps I didn't emphasize it enough. It's a glance. You don't have to spend a lot of time looking. But if you as an experienced driver can't focus on, keep your eyes focused on the corner where you're going and glance in the mirror to see who's behind you going into a corner, then you don't belong in an advanced group. So yes, Randy's point's absolutely right. Drivers, as they're learning, have to spend 100% of their energy, navigating the corner. But it's like lots of people have commented, as you get better, you don't have to use 100% of your concentration on just getting around the corner. You can use it for other things. And so that's what I'm trying to emphasize. So good question.
Appreciate the clarification. Yeah. Appreciate the clarification. Thanks.
You bet. Other questions, comments? Okay. All right. Anything else about the event before we sign off? Okay. Well,
yeah,
look forward to seeing most of you. Randy, it's really too bad you're not able to make it. And
hell, my tires are already at the shop there.
Did they fit my car?
If it's a GT4, yes.
Hey, Bill. Jan Stanberry here. I don't know how far your history with the Porsche Club goes, but I used to be a member of Metro PC back in the late 80s. And I became an instructor with Northern New Jersey, but never actually got on the track to instruct. Is there anybody in the club now that used to be driving 30 years ago? Is there anybody around from those days?
There are a few people around, but you know, when people like yourself who used to drive with us, you know, show up again that we haven't seen in years, we're happy to welcome you back. And but yeah, we would be great to see you back on the track. In terms of instructing, we kind of look for updated checkouts and stuff at that point. But since this is an advanced event, you're more than welcome to have a good time with us. It'd be great to see you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
But
I drove the Glen when there was not a bus stop. So that's how many years I've been driving up there.
Me too. There was no bus stop back in those days.
Well, get your ticket for the bus stop.
Hey, at least there was a boot. That's not original.
Hey, Bill,
yes.
I didn't get my track pack because coming from Texas, they excluded me for a while. So I missed this whole thing. I'm sorry. How much did I miss?
Well,
Whole thing.
How much important stuff did I miss?
Well, Bill, the slides are on the website. So go to the website and look at the slides, and you'll get the gist of what I talked about. And the
Bill,
reason
you were recording. Are you going to post it?
yes, actually, thank you, Kurt, for the reminder. I am going to post a recording. The recording will be on the NNJR Facebook group and YouTube channel, Bill.
Okay,
So
I appreciate that.
it'll probably be sometime tomorrow before it's up, just because of the processing time. But
Okay, you guys from Jersey, keep your distance from me. Being from Texas, I'm trouble.
You guys from Texas keep a distance from us.
Okay.
And you were trouble long before you went to Texas.
Texas.
I can't believe Texas can get in and Virginia can't. What's going on?
yeah,
Texas is safe.
It was no accident that you didn't see the track pack. You were left off the list.
Thanks to you.
Feel the love. Feel the love.
that's right.
I'll get
All
you.
right.
I'll give you a big hug when I see you.
We miss you, Bill.
Okay, folks.
Pinhead bourbon, Bill. Pinhead bourbon.
Yep.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks, Bill Gilbert.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. That was great.
Good night, all. See you at the track.
Thanks,
Good
guys.
seeing you, Bill.